Have you ever had a failure in life? Well, of course you have. Have you ever had a failure that was so big you thought you could never recover? Well, let's face it, failures are a part of our everyday life. But what you do with that failure is what makes all the difference.
Welcome to the Licensed to Live show, where professionals, doctors, champions, VIPs, attorneys, and those in public office discover strategies that help you restart and gain what is lost when you find yourself accused. If another has doubted your integrity, questioned your credentials, or caused your actions to come under scrutiny, you are in the right place. On the other hand, if you have never felt the knot in the pit of your stomach when legal papers are served, the heartbreak of disappointing your family when the lock clicks shut on handcuffs, or had to appear before a board of review, then be aware, the longer you serve, the more likely you are to find yourself under the microscope of those who judge. Prepare yourself for this uncomfortable possibility. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jarret Patton.
Welcome to this episode of Licensed to Live. My name is Dr. Jarret Patton, and I am your host for our journey together today and every day you choose to listen to this show. If you or anyone you know has been dissed in their career, please invite them to join us along this journey. Just go to any podcast player and hit subscribe. And while you're there, let me know what you want to know about. How do you like this episode? What do you want to hear on future episodes? And simply let me know. That way I can provide you with the most up-to-date information about career and life changes. Well, today we're going to talk about failure and changing your mindset around failure and what failure can do for you and how failure will even make you better. And we will kick it off with an example of a very recent failure. And I want you to listen to how this company reframed their failure into something positive so people knew what was going on. And I'm talking about SpaceX. So we will get to rocket ships, failures, and what it means for you right after we finish thanking our sponsors.
Something smells good. EH3 coffee. EH3 coffee. Premium organic. Nothing better than waking up. EH3 in your cup. Premium organic. EH3 coffee. Nothing better than in the middle of your day. EH3 coffee. Premium organic. EH3 coffee.
Hey, this is Dr. Jarret Patton. Do you need more positivity in your life? No matter what part of your life you want to transform, positive affirmations can help you achieve your goals. But sometimes making permanent changes can be difficult. Designed with you in mind, Licensed to Live. Daily affirmations to rebuild your life will inspire and equip you to become the best version of yourself. Licensed to Live. Daily affirmations to rebuild your life will set you on the path to changing your mindset, beliefs, speech, and ultimately your actions. You can change your life now by getting your copy at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your finer book retails, or licensedtolive.com. That's licensedtolive.com.
Hey guys, this is Janae Noonan, and I'm here with Dr. Jarret on Licensed to Live. Hit the subscribe, follow the journey, let's go.
Public notice. Licensed to Live, the conference, is virtual and early bird specials are ongoing. Go to licensedtolive.com for more info. Seriously, I hope I see you this summer, folks. It will be yet another blockbuster show. We have CME that's being applied for. We have lots of speakers already lined up, and we are still working on contracting other speakers to arrive. So there is no reason not to come to this conference this year, folks. It is going to be virtual. When I was a kid, I used to like to build model rockets. I would get the kits. They wouldn't be really fancy, but I just like to send stuff up in the air. So, when I was real little, I may have had those water pressure ones where you had a pump, you fill it halfway with water, use the air pressure to launch it 10, 15 feet in the air. And that was fun. But, as I got older, I was able to actually build and construct these rockets from these kits. And they had these engines that would send them up, maybe 100, couple hundred feet up in the air. So I used to have fun with them because it was a legal way for me to shoot something up in the air that would have a small explosion and drift back down to the earth. Now, I had plenty of successful rocket launches this way, and I would send them up. The parachute would open, it would come back down, and things were going well. And maybe I built one or two rockets along the way, but I generally had a very successful rocketeering career. Now, the most memorable launch was my very last launch. I took my same rocket. It had several test flights before, done what it's supposed to do. So I said, I'm going to send this rocket back up into the air. And this time I decided to buy engines that were a little bigger than the normal engine that I would put in. So although it went along with the specs of the rocket, I was thrilled to see that this larger engine was compatible with it. And here we go. So we get everything set up. We put the rocket on the launch pad. I have the controller in my hand. I stick the key in the controller to turn the light on. So I'm ready to hit the ignition button with this new engine. And I go ahead and hit that ignition button. 3, 2, 1. Man, that rocket went so high up in the air, way farther than the other engines I'd used. I couldn't even see it anymore. The only thing I saw was a little puff of smoke when the nose cone blew off and the parachute was supposed to take off. But it was so high, I could not really see it, other than when the parachute opened up, that thing was drifting far off course. I clearly hit another wind stream, another level that was up there, and that rocket was just floating straight sideways. And it was at that moment, as I saw it going farther and farther away, I said, well, I guess I'll never see that rocket again. And honestly, that was the end of my career because I did not want to build another rocket. And I said, well, that was an interesting test launch. That rocket engine certainly was much more powerful than the others. And well, I had to learn a lesson. Well, you know what? Sometimes in experimentation, sometimes in your hobbies, you win some, you lose some. And I definitely felt that I lost something. And I learned something over this moment. I said, well, I'll never put a C engine in a rocket again unless it's a much bigger and heavier rocket. I'll just stick with the old ones that I had been using before. And I thought that was the end of the rocket. However, probably about 2 weeks later, I heard some kid talking about something he found in his front yard. And he was describing it. It was kind of burnt up, charred. And he thought it was some sort of rocket ship. And I said, hey, was that rocket blue and did it have a red nose cone? And he said, yeah, the piece that was in my yard was blue, but it was pretty burnt up and the parachute was attached, but it was all melted. And I said, wow, that was my rocket. I launched it a couple of weeks ago, lost track of it, and it was gone. He said, well, you destroyed it. And I thought I was going to get it back, but of course I didn't because it was a piece of garbage. And this kid must have lived half a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile away from where I was trying to land that rocket. And well, folks, that was the end of my rocketing career. However, SpaceX continues to move forward. They're building rockets. They want to send people up into orbit. They want to send people out of space. And they recently had another test flight of an unmanned ship that they were going to send up into orbit. And it's part of them trying to get back to the moon, I believe. And hey, everything was going as planned. And they had their countdown too. 3, 2, 1. And the rocket's engines light up. There's all this glowing fire. There's smoke and steam and all the big stuff that you expect to see out of a rocket launch. And that thing took off, left Earth, and was headed up into the sky. But, well, not too much unlike my own rocket. It got up to a certain place where the booster rockets were supposed to separate, and that rocket turned sideways, and it started doing a flip and never separated the way it did. Then, all of a sudden, huge explosion with just debris and pieces of fiery and flaming, streaking debris from this exploded rocket comes drifting back down to the Earth. And I thought to myself, well, that was quite a failure. And thank goodness nobody was on that thing. And, you know, when I started reading reports, I started hearing what people say, hey, the people at SpaceX were super fired up about this launch because it is yet another launch in their long line of launches that was going to get them closer to the moon or Mars or wherever in space they want to go. And it was quite interesting how they described this, you know, what I would say is a failure. They described it, check this out, what happened to that rocket as a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. A rapid, unscheduled disassembly. Now, you know, most of us would just call that an explosion, you know, boom, kaplooey, kapow, pieces everywhere. Yeah, this explosion, the rocket blew up. No, they called it a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. And I thought that that was a unique twist on something that would be otherwise considered a failure to most people. However, SpaceX did not consider this a failure at all. They said if that thing got off the ground and cleared the tower, that was going to be a success. Anything else that happened after that was going to be just absolutely icing on top. Maybe put the cherry on top of that. And they felt that they would be able to get lots of information that would be able to help them get that rocket that much closer to the moon, that much closer to the Mars or wherever it's going to go without having a rapid unscheduled disassembly. Now, I read even more into this thing, and actually this rapid unscheduled disassembly is actually a real thing in which they, if something's going wrong, they can just blow the thing up and keep it out of people's way and harm's way and all of that, which is cool. But think about the framing of what many people at first glance would say is a failure. Well, we just simply had a rapid unscheduled disassembly, not an explosion, not a fire, not a catastrophe. No, it was a simple rapid unscheduled disassembly. Now, if we take this look into your own life, because let's face it, fire starters, we plan. We keep planning, and sometimes we plan too much because we want to have the perfect plan. And that always doesn't turn out the way we expected. And some people will even go to say, hey, this plan was a failure, or this task that I tried to do was a failure. This achievement I was trying to do was a failure. But if you look at everything that you do in your life, well, there are some things that fail, or there are some things that have a less than optimal outcome. But you know what? There's something to be learned from all of these things. And SpaceX has taught us yet another way that we can look at failure. And I will get back to exactly what you should do when you're staring in the face of failure right after we finish thanking our sponsor.
The time is now to refresh your career. We help doctors, lawyers, executives, and VIPs refresh and restart. Dr. Jarret's coaching helps you build confidence, gain more credibility, develop more leadership skills, and gain clarity in your career path. Want to climb the executive ladder or branch out on your own? We'll put your career in overdrive. Visit drjarret.com and sign up for your free strategy session.
I love these strategy sessions. I just love meeting people in general. So if you guys come to a city or live in a city that I'm going, you see it on social media, and you come to the event, show up, grab me, pull me by the arm, say, "Hey, Dr. Jarret, how are you?" Introduce yourself. And that's how I get to meet new people. I love what I do. So if you don't have one of those opportunities, simply go to timewithdrjarret.com and sign up for your free strategy session. So what should you do looking into the face of failure, or what you would previously call as a failure? SpaceX gave us a great example. They simply reframed failure, and they didn't use the word failure. They said, "Oh yeah, we had a rocket, it launched, it lifted off, and it had a rapid unscheduled disassembly." Fine. That is a perfect way, because you know what? Everything about that mission was not a failure. There were lots of things they learned leading up to the moment they pushed the button to launch that, and even in the first few minutes of the flight before they had this rapid unscheduled disassembly. So thinking of failure with your scientific minds, fire starters, I want you to put on that scientific brain and think about the things that you may have called a failure at some point. "Oh, I didn't pass the boards this time. Oh, I didn't get my favorite choice in the match and I had to go to a different residency program. Oh, I didn't get this job, or I didn't get this promotion," or all the things that go on in your mind that your mind quickly categorizes as failure and throws it away and said, "Well, too bad for that time." But before you throw that garbage that your brain is trying to rapidly save you from embarrassment, save you from humiliation, save you from all of these things that probably won't happen to you anyway because of this so-called failure, your brain tries to compartmentalize it, throw it away so you don't have to deal with it. However, the beauty of failure is what you learn from failure. I mean, no experiment is always going to be completely successful. There are going to be some things that you learn on one side or another that will help you, one, maybe not make similar mistakes again that leads to the same result that you viewed as a failure, but you can also kind of reverse reconstruct what was going on and said, "All right, let's look at exactly where this went wrong and where this happened so that the next time I'm in the situation, I have better options, I have better decision making, and I have a better outcome." So don't let your mind compartmentalize and throw away failure. Try to learn 3 things from one of these situations. And if you can pull 3 learning points out of any situation in your life of something that went wrong and perhaps you could have done something better, or it could have been your team, or it could have been your business, or it could have been your entire workforce, whatever it is, look at it and learn a few things from it. Don't just categorize it and throw it away and say, "Well, better luck next time." Take a moment, internalize the processes that are happening. And if you have to break it down into smaller systems, then do so, because there's going to be a lot more good in these instances than bad. And if you just put failure in your mind to mean something bad, as well, it was drilled in our head time and time again. Heaven forbid you bring home an F from school. Heaven forbid you get an F in a class. Heaven forbid, you fail out that word fail and failure has such a negative connotation, we can't see the positive in it. So I'm simply challenging you fire starters today. See some of the positivity in failure so that you can reframe failure, so that you can understand failure is a necessity of something getting better and better. And when you do that, you win. And you have success. And because of the failures, because of the missteps, you end up making better steps the next time and you have more success. And the successes continue to build. And even if you have a micro failure, even if you have a mini failure, even if you have a major failure like an explosion or rapid unscheduled disassembly, you will be great. Remember, fire starters, if you or anyone you know has been disengaged, dissatisfied, disgruntled, disenfranchised with their career, please invite them to join us along this journey. Simply go to your favorite podcast player and hit subscribe and rate this episode. Let me know how I'm doing. That way I continue to deliver you the most up-to-date information about career challenges and life changes. And hey, if you can't get enough of the show when it releases every week, make sure you hang out with me on social media. You can find me at LinkedIn or anywhere across social media at Dr. Jarret. Simply spell out the word Dr. J-A, 2 R's, E, 1 T, and we will see you next time.
No matter how disheartening the moment of accusation sounds, how deep the pain of immobilization stabs, or how bleak your future looks, no one can take away your license to live. Keep Dr. Jarret's expertise handy and unlock your future. Go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or another podcast player and subscribe right now to Licensed to Live. See you next time.